Hello, my name is Mellissa Mache, and I'm an associate professor at California State University, Chico. Today, I'm going to talk to you about how to implement problem-based learning in your course. So we'll start with the basic steps of an overview of the basic steps of implementation. And so the first thing that we want to do is identify a learning objective that we want to target with our problem that we develop. And so when we're looking at our learning objectives, we're looking for objectives that involve analysis, synthesis, or evaluation. And we'll come back to these words in a couple slides and make sure that we're clear on these. Once we've identified a learning objective, then the next step is to actually design or adapt an existing problem to fit the problem-based learning approach. And so in the next couple of slides, we'll focus on this step a little bit more in depth. After we've developed the problem, it's time to present the problem to our students. If students are unfamiliar with PBL, then it's going to be important to introduce this concept or approach to them and provide them with some rationale for this approach. It may also be helpful to give them an abbreviated practice problem to kind of work through together so that they get an idea of how this is going to work. Of course, you want to make sure they're very familiar with your expectations for their work, and you want to provide them with the resources and time to complete this work. So once the students have the problem, they are going to work in small groups to complete or develop a solution to this problem. And so when you're thinking about these groups, it's important that these groups are diverse and that you have a variety of skill levels and abilities of students within a given group. So what are the students going to do in the group? They're going to take the problem that you've presented, they're going to define that problem, look at what they already know, and decide what it is that they need to learn in order to develop a solution to the problem. And then they have to know where to look for to find these things that they need to learn. So once they have developed a solution, the students are then going to present their solution and review what they have learned through that presentation. And when I say presentation, this could take on a variety of forms. It might be a PowerPoint presentation. It might be a written solution. It could be some sort of blog. It really is up to you as the instructor to decide how you want your students to present what it is that they have learned through this development of a solution to the problem you have given them. The last step in this implementation then is up to the instructor to review the solutions that have been presented by students and provide guidance to the students as needed. And so this might involve some form of assessment that won't be covered in this video, but again, that's going to be something that's going to be up to you. Okay, so in terms of designing a problem for problem-based learning, we want to think about where it is that we should start. So where do we start? We could take a problem from a textbook or research that's existing, and this is probably the easiest place to start. When we're developing the problem, we want to give enough background in the narrative so that students can develop a solution, but we don't want to give them too much information because you want them to be able to find some of the details on their own. So in short, the context should be very clear and easy to understand for the students. Another thing is, of course, we want to engage our students. We want them to be motivated and excited about learning. So we really want to think about the group of students that we're developing this problem for. Think about what interests our students and try and write a problem that is going to engage them. So not only engage them, but also it needs to be demanding enough that most students probably cannot solve the problem independently. So those are kind of the where to start. As we draft the problem, of course, we want to consider the ability of our students. So think about what are the prerequisites for the course that you're developing this problem for? What are the majors or areas of emphasis for these students? And how does that factor into their ability to approach the problem you are developing? Another important thing is to consider Bloom's taxonomy. And so if we look at Bloom's taxonomy, with this problem-based learning approach, we're really focusing on the analysis, synthesis, and evaluation portions of Bloom's taxonomy. And so as you see here for the instructional strategies, notice problems show up in these instructional strategies. And notice the kind of the action verbs here that you see, and these are going to align very well with problem-based learning. And so those are the areas of Bloom's taxonomy, this higher level thinking that we are trying to target with this approach. Okay, the last thing that's probably going to be important, kind of depending on the ability of your students, but if we're talking about an introductory biomechanics class, it's probably going to be helpful to have some multi-stage sub-questions that can help some of our students who may struggle with a given problem. And so these questions could be leading and offer some hints to help students develop a solution to the problem that you have presented. Last thing to think about is how long are these problems that we're presenting? And really, this is going to kind of be up to you as the instructor. So it's going to depend on the course, your students, the problem, and the learning objective that you are presenting. So these can be really short, so 30 minutes or even less problems, or they can be as long as several weeks. So again, you're just thinking about the context in which you're going to present this problem and deciding what is going to be most appropriate. So those are the basic steps of implementing problem-based learning. Moving forward, you will see an example and consider some of the challenges with using this approach.